Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today we're going to be reviewing some new to me eyeshadow palettes. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. If you're into eyeshadow palettes, Essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of your makeup the way that I am, then definitely stay tuned because today we're going to be reviewing 7 new to me eyeshadow palettes. Yes, 7 new to me eyeshadow palettes. I'll show you exactly which ones in a minute, but if you see my Shop My Stash at the start of the month, you will already know. So, because then I always show you this is what I'm going to be trying out, and some of these are pretty hot off the press because I've only acquired them in the past few weeks because I did include some of the new Essence and Catrice stuff as well. I will be inserting some swatches and looks that I did with all of these. I've tried every single shade in every single palette that we have lying in front of us, so let's just get to the review. But before we do that, it may be good to know that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, which greatly skews my makeup preferences. And because I have been buying, trying, and reviewing makeup for more than a decade, I also have some very strong favorites. So I hope you're here for that, and join the Snow Angel Club by clicking the subscribe button down below. I have 7 palettes that I've tried. I've tried my Lisa Eldridge, I've tried my Victoria Beckham one that I only just showed you in a haul, but I really wanted to try it already. Then I have some new Essence and Catrice bits, 2 bits from Gloss Gods, and then we're gonna end the video with Vieve Ninetease palette, which is actually what's on my eyes today. So let me just get into the Essence palette first, get those out of the way first. So the Welcome to Marrakesh is the newest eyeshadow palette that Essence launched as part of their Spring-Summer 2022 collection update. I showed that first impression, when exactly? I think at the end of January, early February perhaps, about a month ago, 2 months ago. And there was already a eye tint, I think they call it, like a liquid eyeshadow that I tried out in that video, and I mentioned how I was going to be testing out this eyeshadow palette in a separate video for you guys, which is this one. So this is the color story and what it looks like. It is essentially a neutral toned eyeshadow palette with a pop of purple. It's not as purple as you might have hoped, perhaps, especially if you look at the packaging. Some of the shades that are in the palette are definitely inside it, but the royal purple that you see, for instance, over here in some of the dishes that are on the wall, it's just not that purple. And I think that that's going to be one of the deal breakers for some people who might be interested in this. But in terms of quality, I have no issues with this. Quality-wise, this is really pretty. I was able to do 2 really stunning looks with this, and as far as these little travel palettes that Essence has now come out with, I also tried the Miami and the Rome last year. This is even better than those 2, I feel. And those were okay. They were fine. And that's how I feel a little bit about this one as well. I mean, compared to everything else I've got going on in my makeup collection, this really isn't all that special. However, if you're on a budget and you love your neutrals with a pop of purple, then I think you might really like this eyeshadow palette. The black in this especially is really, really good. I was really impressed with that. We get enough light shades, we get some depth in here, and then we get quite a lot of mid-tones. I would have liked there to perhaps be a little bit more variation. I could have really done without this very pale, weird sort of cream shade. I really didn't need that. But other than that, there are some really stunning shades in here. I was able to pull stunning looks out of it. This is definitely a successful one from Essence, but not something I need to necessarily keep around. And I kind of feel very similarly about the Blushing Ocean palette. This is a new Pro Slim palette by Catrice. I already reviewed the new 5 in a box last month, and this month I decided to try this out. Again, I did a few looks with this, 2, maybe 3. I don't remember anymore. And this ended up being far more successful than I had expected. Same with the Essence, really. I thought that this was going to be far too warm toned, that it wasn't going to work for me, especially because the front looks quite warm toned, and especially with these shades here and some of this, I was like, I'm not sure. whether this is going to work out. And I was totally expecting, like with some of these other Catrice palettes that we've seen in the past, that a shade like this blue wasn't gonna do much. Like, that was my expectation, because with some of these Pro Slim palettes from Catrice, like, the quality has not been very consistent. I am happy to report to you that this is one of the good ones. So if this is a color story that appeals to you, snatch it up, because it is a good one. I actually hope to be doing a ranking video with all of the Catrice palettes that are currently in my collection, and this is definitely going to be one of them that will be featured in there when I do my eyeshadow palette week next month. That's the plan. So this is going to crop up in that video for sure. And this is a really successful one for me. It ended up far more cool toned than I had expected. And the reason for it is that everything, for instance, this, it looks quite red in the pan, but on me, it pulled very pink and like cool tone pink. So there are also a couple, something like this. It's not like a hot fuchsia pink. It has a blue flash. So because of that blue flash, it pulls more cool toned. Similarly with this like peachy shade, it's not a peach. It's got a pink to it. This shade pulled a lot more pink on me. So everything in this palette has a pink undertone, which is why it works. So I ended up doing some really nice looks with this. The juxtaposition of the pink with the blue is really pretty as well. This is definitely one of the good ones, and I like the quality of this a lot more than some of the other ones that they've done in this line. So if you're interested in this one, I don't think you would regret it. And then I tried some palettes this month because I know I'm going to do that eyeshadow palette week next month. And one thing I like to do when I do like an eyeshadow palette week or an eyeshadow palette month is to talk about recent cool tone palettes that I tried. So I knew when I got this little Victoria Beckham eyeshadow palette in the mail, this was sent to me as a PR gift, which I'm super grateful for, that I wanted to try it straight away. It's really small and dinky, but really heavy, luxurious feeling packaging. It has a little snap, then it pops open. You get the mirror inside it, and this is in the shade Tuxedo, which together with the one that has a blue in it, I thought was going to be the best for me. And this taupe. You guys, I love it. I absolutely adore it. The only thing I didn't love is that it doesn't have a shimmer. So when I created the look that I did with this, I did rope in Onyx, which is one of the lid lusters that I was sent in the same package. And I did do a look with that. So I actually centered the entire look around Onyx and just used the mattes to complement that shade. And that is like a blackened gray, like charcoal kind of vibe with a lot of sparkle running through it, and it was so pretty, and I got so many really lovely comments because it's the look that I wore in a lot of the videos that you saw going up recently when I was wearing like a navy sweater and a bright bold like pink lip. And it was this palette with Onyx, and I really love the look that I did. This was really stunning, really nice, soft, blendable quality. This is really like, you're like, okay, yes, I understand why you pay more for this. I've heard people say though about Victoria Beckham eyeshadows that they don't last very well, that they fade, and that they don't stay looking vibrant on the skin all day long. But I had no issues with this at all. It looked the same as it did at the end of the day as it did in the morning. And maybe it's because I used the palette to complement the Onyx shade. I'm not sure. But I would not very easily use just this palette by itself. When I did the look, I also roped in one of the eyeliners that I got from the brand in my PR package, which was the shade Sea Gray, to add a little bit of brightness around the inner corner and like smudging it on the lower, like on the top lash for that added sparkle. So I definitely complemented a couple of other products to make this work because it's an all matte palette, which is just not my favorite. But it was really stunning for, you know, especially because it's so small and dinky. Like if you just put this like front and center on your vanity or in a makeup drawer that you can reach for very easily, inside you get like all 4 cool tone shades that you can use for any cool tone look you want to do. So you've got a very nice shade to blend things out. This gray is great in the crease. The taupe is really nice for deepening things up. And this, It's a black, but it is a grayish black, and I know not everybody likes it because people want intense blacks, but I like that it's a softer black because it means you can smoke it out much more easily. So in terms of this being a smoky eye brick, because that's what the product is called, I feel it was very successful, and I really love the shades in here, but I did use those shimmering bits just to get more use out of it, you could say. And then the other mini thing I used was my Lisa Eldridge eyeshadow palette in the shade Vega. This is what it looks like. I wore this the other day. The reason why I like this a little bit better than the Victoria Beckham one is because this just has more shimmers. We get 2 shimmers in here that are incredibly high shine. We get a blue in here, which adds a little bit more interest. But we get 2 really lovely like taupey shades. And again, a black that isn't super intense black, but a softer black. That's great for smoking things out. And I'm not sure if these are made in the same factory because I felt that texture-wise, especially some of those mattes, felt very similar to the things that were going on in the Victoria Beckham. Like really smooth, buttery, blendable. Like these shadows blend themselves. Like they just do. Like you barely need a flick of the wrist to get them to diffuse and blend and look really, really pretty. It's outstanding quality makeup in both of these. And I just bought one from the Lisa Eldridge line because this is, again, quite expensive. It's like 59 euros for a little 6-pan, which is pricey. But I was like, you know what? I'll try one and then I'll see if the other ones are still in stock. Then I can buy more. So Myth and Sorcery are both still on my wish list. Those I would like to get at some point. And this is just, you know, in terms of like taking this traveling or using it more every day, because I don't have to supplement any other like shimmering items into it like I do with the Victoria Beckham. This has just a little bit extra in there, a bit more interest, but especially this shade in the crease was just stunning. And then this all over the lid, and then you can use that in the inner corner or to top things over it and look more dimensional. And I think one of the looks I would still want to do is like pop that up blue all over the lid and then topping that shimmer over it. And I think that's really going to add that sort of dimension to it. Like this is the kind of palette where even though you only get 6 shades, you can do a multitude of things with it. Like just these 2, perfect everyday look. Adding a bit of that deeper taupe is going to create a bit more smokiness. If you pull in the black, you can glam it up and make it great for nighttime. You've got the pop of blue for that added interest, and that shimmer is just going to transform any look you do into the high heavens. So in terms of like, if I were to pick, like if you want to splurge and, you know, treat yourself to a more expensive eyeshadow palette, I would pick the Lisa Eldridge over the Victoria Beckham, but that's just because this doesn't have any shimmers. That's the only reason why. Then we're going to be talking about Gloss Gods. So I tried the new Neutral Remix palette in January, if I'm not mistaken, maybe last month, I don't remember. But I knew at first swatch, wow, this is great. They're a European-based indie brand. I want to try more. And then they released this for Christmas. So I'm not sure if this is still around. And then they restocked this. I was able to get this at 25% off, which I loved. And this, if most smoky eye palettes are too dark for you, try this, because this is actually quite light. And I loved it. It's got some really nice cool tone, like rosy lilac, dirty lilac leaning shades, like something like this. So stunning. I loved it. You can do something a little bit darker and smoky, but the deepest shade you get in here is a charcoal gray shimmer. That's going to be your darkest shade. Some people have mentioned that I've seen reviewing this palette in the past that these 2 mattes are too similar, but I think that has to do with your undertone. For me, they pulled really differently. This almost has a bit of a plum to it, and then this one is a true gray. So for me, there is definitely a difference. Some stunning crease shades in here as well. I can use this, I can use this. I've even used this in the crease to create some looks. And then some really stunning shimmers. And even this, which looks like a bronze in the pan, I have no words. I thought it was the final shade I used. I did like like I did like a pinky toned look, I did a gray toned look, and then I just had some of these warm tones left. And I was like, not sure I'm gonna love it. And then I popped this all over the lid and I was like, oh, it's stunning. What looks like to be a very warm tone, like olive tone green gold in the pan. It's like a brassy taupe with a green undertone. And I loved it. I just really loved it. This is a stunning shimmer. I love the silver in here. This is I'm not sure if you can see. The mirror doesn't show it either, I think. This is not just a white, it's got a pink flip, so it goes really well with some of these rosy things that it's got. And then you just get a more like white champagne kind of inner corner highlight, but that isn't super warm toned. So everything in here leans cool toned. It's not super intense and dark. I mean, if you leave out this shade, you can just see it's like, it's pretty light. So this is very fair skin friendly. I really enjoyed it. It's a really good versatile cool tone palette. And now I regret not having tried this before I did my comparison of some cool tone palettes that I did earlier in the month, because I think this could have been a nice one for that roundup, even though it's not necessarily blacks and grays. Oh well. It's gonna pop up in the cool tone video that I'm gonna do next month for sure. And then the Dancing in the Sky palette, which is an all green shimmer palette. There's not a single matte in this thing. And Gloss Got shimmers, they are something else. They are something else. If you've seen the swatches of my new neutral compared to some of the other neutral palettes that I thought were quite similar, and I mean, the Smoke and Mirrors doesn't really have any duochromes or multichromes or some like super interesting shades in it. And this only has them. So this, I think combined with the Smoke and Mirrors may be really pretty as well. But I just used this with like a bit of a taupe matte in the crease. And then I did a green look and then I did a more like bluish greeny teal look with this. It's got some really stunning shades. The only shade I don't love is this gold. Everything else, absolutely stunning. We get some flips in here. With the first look that I did, I used this to like deepen up the outer V, and then I popped this on the lower lash line, and it was just perfect. Like they went perfectly together. I loved it. And then for the second look I did something a little unconventional with this one, because I did use this sort of like in the inner third, and then I popped this shade, which I knew was probably going to be sheerer than this, but I popped it on the outer edge, and this blended into this so nicely. It's like this is the sheer version of this, and then I just blended that shade towards like the outer V, and then I just used this as liner, because what usually happens if I want to use a shade as eyeliner, it takes up most of my eye look. So I was like, if I pop this in the outer V, it probably isn't going to be enough contrast that you can still see the eyeliner effect, which is why I was like, hey, if I flip it around, could that work? I'm not sure it's a 100% successful look by any means, but I like experimenting with some different things, and the shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. It's more of a complementary palette for sure. If I go back to this, I'm gonna have to supplement some other mattes with this to really make the shimmer shine. For the sake of the video, I just did 2 looks, you know, using all of these different shades, but I still think that they go really well together as well. You can definitely like do a look with like 1 or 2 mattes and then just use some of the shimmers that are in here. And I think you're gonna have a great look that way. So these were also really, really unique, great palettes. If you're in the EU and you want some really good indie makeup, try Gloss Gods. And finally, what is on my eyes today is the Vieve Ninetease eyeshadow palette. So a lot of people were saying, Micah, please try this. You love your cool tones, you might like it. And it was sold out on Cult Beauty, and then it came back in stock and I picked it up. So this is a little bit darker though. So where the Smoke and Mirrors from Gloss Gods is pretty light, this looks lighter than it actually is. And that's because, especially these shades in the middle and also this gray, they pull deeper than you might expect when they go on. That's just something to look for. So what I ended up doing with this is that I created 2 looks, one for each of the cool tone shimmers that it has. There are only 3 shimmers in the palette. You know I love my shimmers, but this is a deeper shimmer that creates a more smoky vibe. And then what I've done today is to create something a bit more natural, neutral, perfect for everyday kind of vibe. So that's the one centered around this one. And I thought it looked really pretty though. The mattes in here, amazing. Like out of this world, amazing, easy to blend mattes. Very similar to the Victoria Beckham mattes. Like again, these blend themselves. Even though they are deep shades, they are really blendable. And that's exactly what I need for myself to make a palette like this work. Because if the mattes don't blend well, then a palette like this is just, it's not gonna work. What is a bit lackluster in here are the shimmers. I feel the best shimmer is the very light champagne we get in here. That is, it's like not too warm tone, not too cool tone. It's actually a really pretty inner corner highlight, but this is far more high shine than these two. I felt that these, even with a finger, just never really looked super foily. I would want something a little bit more contrasting with my mattes so you can really see that I'm wearing a shimmer. And with these, it's more like a satin, it's like velvet, a velvet shine, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure. So does this look pretty? Yes. Is it super glam? Yes, because that's how I feel the brand Vieve, you know, actually came into being. Jamie Genevieve, who is the creator of the brand, is a makeup artist, and she's known for her super high glam makeup looks, and that's what you're going to create with this quite easily. But I wanted to come on here and show you that you can also tone this down, and I think this is really lovely. The undertones in here, stunning. Stunning. Nothing pulls weirdly warm toned all of a sudden. Everything is cool, and even though it looks super gray, I feel it's not boring, and it is the kind of cool tone palette that even if you have a deeper skin tone or if you have a warmer undertone, this is not going to look weird and ashy on you because of the way everything has been blended. So I think this is a very successful palette, a good, universally flattering cool tone palette, which can be hard to find because cool tone palettes usually look only good at people, like on people with cool undertones and not on people with warm undertones. But I feel this one is one that nicely bridges that gap. So if you were looking for a cool tone palette and you have a warm undertone, it may be good to have a look at what this one has to offer. Those were the 7 eyeshadow palettes that I tried in recent weeks. I hope you enjoyed watching this video today and that it was helpful. Of course, I'm going to be doing another one of these again next month because I come on here once a month showing you all the eyeshadow palettes that I tried. And like I mentioned at the start of the video, I always show you exactly what will pop up in this video when I show my Shop My Stash. So if you'd like to know exactly what we will be reviewing in April, all you need to do is check out my Shop My Stash, which is going to go up very, very soon. So if you'd like to stay tuned for any other videos that I've got coming for you, for now, I would very much appreciate it if you could thumbs up this video, help out the channel by subscribing, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!